Welcome to Build Weekend Watch. I'm your host, Ricky Camilleri. Normally I take this time to say something political instead of talk about entertainment, but honestly, I'm out of things to say today. I can't say anything political. There's literally someone sending bombs around the world. So just vote in a couple weeks, just vote. Joining me right now, I have Hunter Harris, associate editor at Vulture.com, and Ethan Alter, senior writer at Yahoo Entertainment. And now we are going to talk about movies and TV. Everybody give them a round of applause. Let's hear it. How you guys doing? Everybody good?
I'm great.
You're great? Okay. I think you're great because first up, we're going to talk about Luca Guadagnino's remake of the classic 1977 horror film Suspiria. It is bonkers. It is complete madness. Let's take a quick look before we chat.
Dance of another. You make yourself in the image of its creator.
I feel like I'm not even here yet.
The dumpling's incredible.
1, 2, 3.
The way she transmits her work.
You have to decide, what is it you want to be for this company?
There's more in that building than what you can see, Doctor.
You are living with dangerous people.
So I'm just going to say I love this movie. I love the original, and I love what Guadagnino did with the original, which is literally nothing, and did his own movie, essentially. But I'm going to say, as much as I love it, as great as the trailers are, if you are not a person who likes to be challenged when you watch a movie, if you are not a person who likes to watch a filmmaker kind of teeter off the edge of what is accessible, you're probably going to hate this movie. Anybody else?
I mean, yes, for sure. But also, it's so rich. It's so layered. It's so. It's in conversation with the original, I think, but it just takes it so much farther, so much deeper, so much weirder. I love it, and I love Luca.
The original is a ballet school in Germany, and it was made in 1977. That's literally what the original is. And then from there, Argento just goes into whatever sort of gory fantasia he can kind of create without even the context of the setting or the time period. This takes that setting and time period and makes a sort of diorama all about Germany at this period of time.
Right. Although I didn't even just enjoy it for that. I just loved it as an experience. Like this, I had such a fun time just experiencing this movie, letting it wash over me. I don't know if I could tell you when it was over what it was about necessarily at times, why it needed to be 2.5 hours long, but I just enjoyed the experience of watching it so much. And it's great to just have that experience in movie theater, that you're just going with the movie wherever it decides to go.
I mean, the movie has 3 Tilda Swintons. Like, that in and of itself is like a feat to me.
Right.
But I think, I want to go back to what you said. I do like that it's so about this time in Germany, about guilt, about shame, about the war. It's like something new. And that's what I want from a remake. It's like really a reinterpretation of kind of what Argento was kind of not dealing with as much.
Oh, I agree. I love that this is kind of in conversation, but it's never homaging, nor is it like winking in the way. I mean, to have this come out a week after the Halloween movie is kind of interesting because the Halloween movie is just a consistent wink to the original and to other horror movies, whereas this Suspiria is in no way that at all. Ethan?
Right. I will say that at times it does, I think he does get a little too, not cute isn't the right word, but he does maybe, the commentary escapes him a little bit. The Holocaust comes into play in this movie in a way that I don't think he is entirely prepared to wrestle with in the context of how he's made it. I didn't mind that he brought it up, but it did feel out of place to me. That was something that felt jarring in this sort of idea of let's encompass all of German history into this experience. That was the one off note that I felt, and it happens sort of towards the end of the film that we sort of get that element processed.
Yeah, it felt like someone a bit more in conversation with the Fassbinder films that were made in Germany around this period of time than rather in conversation with the actual guilt and shame that surrounds the Holocaust and would surround an elderly person living in Berlin in like 1977 who lived through the Holocaust. And I generally like that. I love that period of Fassbinder. I mean, I love all of Fassbinder's work, but that period is so rich and layered, and it seems like Luca was in a lot of ways drawing inspiration from that period of time. Yeah.
But what I do like about this one that's absent in the original is that we do see a lot more of the witches and kind of, in a very practical sense, who they are, what they want, what they're doing, this kind of power vacuum, how they're taking advantage of it. And that to me is like very interesting to consider right now, a space that is completely run by and about and for women is like very interesting.
Yeah, and if you think about the original, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen the original, cover your ears, I'm sorry, but we're talking about it. In the original, it's kind of like you're watching this, you're like, what's going on? Why are people getting killed? What is with this mask? What's going on? And then it's like, they're witches, credits roll. Like, it's literally like the end of the original Suspiria. With this, within the first 10 minutes, it announces that they're witches and that you are in a coven of witches.
I like that it kind of pulls away from that, aren't they witches? Because, if you know anything about Suspiria, you already know that.
Right.
And this really builds more into, well, what is it like to live with a coven, in a coven? What is it like to be the subject and the object of horror in this place, in this space? I think it's really interesting.
And so much of it is it feels like it's kind of a lot of the conversations that we're having around not just the patriarchy, but around politics in general, which is how far does one person go in reaction to the horrors committed by another, or that could be committed by another? And there is a kind of good witch, bad witch thing that happens here where there is that too much? Am I revealing too much? Basically, I was like, shit.
No. I was smiling. The good witch, bad witch committed, absolutely.
Well, and in that regard, there's this good witch, bad witch dynamic, which is kind of like how far does one person go in response to tragedies that have committed before to sort of rectify the wrongs or seek vengeance for the wrongs that have committed, and is that too far? And should someone step in and sort of not necessarily seek vengeance, if that makes sense.
I want to take a moment to praise Dakota Johnson as well, because obviously Tilda Swinton deserves a lot of credit. She's always great, and seeing her on screen is always a delight. But I think Luca really understands how to use Dakota Johnson. He showed that in Bigger Splash. He shows it again here. She really goes toe-to-toe with Tilda a lot of times. I think wins. Their scenes together most of the time. She tends to win. And I think there's just something about the way she plays every moment, not quite in the way you expect it. It's sort of always straddling that line between comedy, absurdity, and drama. It's a really rich performance, and I hope people give her credit for it because it's well deserved.
Yeah, I completely agree. Mia Goth as well, I think, is really great in the movie. And then a number of the witches are made up of just these incredible women from sort of like world cinema in the 70s and 80s. A few of them from actual Fassbender films. Before we move on, is there anything else that you guys want to say about Suspiria? Thoughts?
Go Dakota.
Yeah, go Dakota. I think we know now that Dakota is like one of the greatest actresses around, and she works with Luca in such a. I think he tests her in such a way where she is just really able to flourish in his movies, and she is on display right here.
Which is a really daring personality type, right? That you see even in something like. What was the movie called?
50 Shades.
50 Shades, or How Am I Not Single, or How Am I Single? What was the name of that movie? Are we single?
How to Be Single, I think. Yeah,
single.
right, exactly.
Whatever, How to Be... Even in that, it's kind of like, oh, you are such an odd personality and striking charismatic figure because of how sort of oddly you carry yourself, that even in this kind of like ramshackle, bad romantic comedy, you're fascinating to watch. And I think the same thing about the 50 Shades movies. No matter how bad those get, you can kind of just watch her figure out what she's doing in each scene.
Right. No, she's the reason if those movies work at all, and I think they do in a lot of other interesting ways, but she is the force that holds them together throughout always. I think
she knows what performance she's giving. Right. I don't think, in those movies a lot of people might not be, but she's so certain, especially now in Suspiria. Right. I love it.
Yeah. Wait, can I ask one more question about Suspiria for even you guys? The Tom York songs. Did you feel like they fit?
Maybe not, but again, that was part of the fun. I love the sort of melange of stuff that he has going on in there, where it's just this really rich tapestry of things.
I like them, but I thought they were as weird as the dancing in the movie, which I was also very into, because it's very off-putting. It's like lots of Suspiria means sigh, mother of sigh or something. There's lots of mouth breathing, all of that stuff, and I thought it matched.
All right, let's move on to the next one. Moviegoers, you're in luck this weekend. Another Gerard Butler movie is out, and it's not even January. How did that happen? This time, Butler plays a captain who must lead a group of Navy SEALs to save a kidnapped Russian president in order to maintain world order and prevent World War III. Roll the trailer.
We're dealing with a single rogue minister.
What if we could free President Zakharin?
We rescue the Russian president.
You need eyes and ears on the ground.
Captain, waiting your orders. We're going in with 4 of our boys and get 1 Russian president. We need a local navigator.
I risked my men. I risked my ship.
Because it was the right thing to do. This is about our future.
Shocker, this movie's good.
But actually good, or like Gerard Butler good? Because there's two different.
Look, I'm not going to say anything in a pejorative way about Gerard Butler movies, outside of the fact that most of them come out in the January dumping ground. I'm going to say that I was really surprised by Hunter Killer. The director, Donovan Marsh, does a great job. It's not that sort of like, he's a really confident director. There isn't that kind of super fast cutting going around in every scene where he actually seems to have a handle on the scenes and how to direct his actors, whereas most of these action movies, you're kind of like, oh, stop cutting. Just tell a story of some kind. And the story actually works. It gets ludicrous, of course, but it moves quick enough. It's just smart enough to stay ahead of you. And I mean, it's like a 2-hour diversion. It was a lot of fun. A lot more than I expected when I went to a screening of it about a week ago. Yeah.
I mean, I'm really excited only because that cast looks insane, but also amazing. Like, that's a dinner party I want to go to. That's like a group text I want to be in.
Gary Oldman and Gerard Butler is the dinner party you want to hang at?
Yeah. Think about the.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's gonna be like insane. But also, Com and Linda Cardellini, like these are people I want to hang out with. Yeah, I want to see it.
Can we talk about just Gerard Butler as an actor? Because I think there's a review on Vulture where they talk about sort of placing this movie in the context of 90s movies like Crimson Tide and that sort of era of action movie, and it feels like that's where Butler would have been most at home. Maybe like that was the kind of career he wanted to have. And in present day, those movies don't exist anymore. And seeing him sort of navigate where he started. I mean, it's weird to me to think that he started out 15 years ago in Phantom of the Opera. Like, to square that Butler with this Butler is kind of odd to me. So, what do we think about him just as a movie star these days? What does he sort of embody to you guys?
January. That's usually how I think of him. Unfortunately, because that's when most of his movies come out, and that's kind of what they feel like. This one feels a little bit above that. Did Tony Scott direct Crimson Tide?
Yes.
Was it Tony or Ridley?
It was Tony, yeah.
So this feels somewhere in between Hunt for Red October and Crimson Tide. Right. It doesn't feel as ludicrous as Crimson Tide, nor as over the top Tony Scott style directing, which can be wonderful.
Right.
And it doesn't feel as grounded and as good as I think it was McTiernan who did Hunt for Red October, right?
Right.
Yeah. So it's somewhere in between. It's a lot of fun. What do you think about Gerard Butler though?
We have the same birthday, so I have to support him.
Support.
That's
there you
a
go.
weird
Gotta
fact
support.
that I know. But I mean, I really think of him mostly as like the, not quite romantic comedy hero, which that kind of didn't work out for him. But I think he belongs more, like you said, in a style of movies that kind of doesn't really exist anymore in that kind of price point. But I'm excited for this. I'm excited to see him save the Russian president because it's
that's another thing. That's another thing. Sorry. So the Russian president is not Vladimir Putin in this. It's a fantasy Russian president who is looks a little like sort of a ripped Justin Trudeau.
Is it common?
Almost.
Are you telling us the Russian president is common?
No. And the American president in this is a woman with a blonde bob cut down to here. Just saying.
Well, wait.
A little weird.
It's like a House of Cards thing? Like,
I'm not exactly sure what it was. The director told me that they shot that before the election, which is a long time ago.
Yeah, that's got shot.
They shot that before the election, and they were going to change it, but they just decided not to because they thought it'd be even more weighted if they did. And he's absolutely right because the president doesn't appear until about halfway through the movie. But for the first half of the movie, people keep going, somebody get the president on the line. And every time someone says that, you think to yourself, that's not going to do anything. It's going to be the most unsatisfying phone call. You're going to be like, Mr. President, we're in trouble underwater with our submarines. And be like, how much does one of those cost? Like, it's just not going to happen. So when they cut to this woman in the middle, you're like, oh, okay, fine, I get it. Like, there's someone competent at the helm here of the country. So yeah, I really liked it. It opens this weekend. Let's talk about our next movie. Next up, 1985 is the new film directed and written by Yen Tan. It follows a closeted gay man who returns to Texas to try and reconnect with his conservative Christian family. Let's take a look.
You left home just as soon as you could. You couldn't have left any faster.
You don't even talk to your own family anymore. So stop telling me what I should do.
I spoke with Carly, and I think she's still on the market.
So then why did you call me today? Why are we doing this?
I just want to see you one last time.
I've lost so many friends.
Oh, I really like this movie. I really like it's shot on Super 16 35mm, which I absolutely love looking at. And oddly, it's a pretty low-budget movie, so they don't have much in the way of set design to create 1985, but the choice of shooting it on this film stock somehow elicits a memory like it is 1985. I think it reminds me of a Jim Jarmusch film from that time or something like Permanent Vacation or Stranger in Paradise, so immediately, somehow I'm drawn into that period of time. But I think the lead is really great in this, and it's a a really moving story. Ethan, I know you've seen it.
Well, it was interesting. Before I watched it, I tracked down the director's short film, which is available on Vimeo, so people can go look for it there. But it's, in a way, it's a little bit of a prequel to this. You actually see the main character, who's a man with AIDS, gay man with AIDS, who comes back to his hometown to visit his family. In that short film, you see him sort of dealing with his illness alone in New York, and the film actually ends where the feature begins, with him getting off the plane and saying, in that case, hello, Mom. And here he says, hello, Dad, because he's greeting Michael Chiklis instead. But it's sort of a little prologue to this movie, and that one is also shot in color, which is interesting, which makes the choice of black and white thematically appropriate, because you've been in color in his life in New York, where he actually lives presently, and then he goes back to his hometown, and he enters a sort of black and white memory of what it used to be. So I thought that was a nice little thematic a bit of continuity there, whether accidental or intentional. It was a nice choice. So again, I recommend, if you see the movie, definitely go try and see the short film, which is pretty available.
How long is the short?
The short's about 9 minutes.
Okay.
So it really is just a little taste, and they change details. Like the feature doesn't correspond directly to the short. There are a few details that are changed in between the two, but you can see them definitely as sort of moving from one to the other.
What did you think of the feature?
I thought the feature was really nicely done. I mean, I was thinking a lot of the times, I went through a period where I was really interested in movies made about the AIDS crisis and at the time, and so there are movies that were actually being made while this film is set, like Parting Glances, which is a really great sort of document of that era, and also
Steve Buscemi, one of his
first roles, and also the TV movie An Early Frost, which this movie put me in mind of a little bit. That was one where Aidan Quinn plays a man who gets AIDS and has to tell his parents, who are played by Jenna Rollins and Ben Gazzara. And so the two films do have some similarities. I find the fact that An Early Frost was made at the time, you get this real immediacy from it that I think is really great. I wish, in a way, I wish that 1985, while it recreates that era so vividly, I almost wish it could have used maybe a little more forethought from what we can use today and apply it back then in a strange way. Like maybe we could flesh out what we know about that time now from today's perspective. I thought it might have benefited a little from that. But I liked the performances a lot, and I thought it did evoke that time period really nicely. So.
Let's move on to our next one. If there's anything Netflix loves, it is Adam Sandler, for better or worse. He's back on the streaming service, but this time for his own comedy special. Check out the trailer.
You guys didn't know I could dance that fucking good. I'm gonna play guitar a little bit for you. Here we go. Hit it! Oh, shit, man. Take him away! All right, let's lose that. I hate it. Sorry.
I love Adam Sandler. I don't particularly love all of his movies, or maybe most of them, but I do love Adam Sandler. He's just evokes something, or he emits something that is so just genuine and sweet, no matter what he's doing, no matter how crazy he is. I watched some of this. It's really funny. I think if you love the jokes that Adam Sandler tells, you're going to love this. I love Adam Sandler. I don't necessarily love the jokes that he tells, but I liked this. So I liked this.
Can we do a quick Adam Sandler favorite movie check? Like not like Punch Drunk Love or Reign Over Me, like classic sort of Billy Madison Sandler. What's the favorite?
Not allowed to say Punch Drunk Love.
Not allowed to say any of that.
Men,
just
women, and children.
I really like the Meyerowitz stories, but okay. Big Daddy. That was like the Adam Sandler that I grew up with.
I would go Billy Madison.
Okay, the first one. He never improved on that.
One, yeah.
I'm gonna go Zohan. I really like Zohan. You don't mess with Zohan. Yeah, I enjoy that.
You know, I will also say for his Netflix movies, The Week Of with Chris Rock, directed by Robert Smigel, is very, very good. It's actually a good comedy. It's and not just good for like an Adam Sandler movie. It's a good comedy. I would say. But I watched some of this. This is really funny. Have you seen any of it?
I watched some of it. I think the scene, the moments that I liked the most were where he deals with his sort of current status as a family man. Like there's a whole riff about going to Disneyland with his family. That was funny. I always like it when I see these comedians who were young at one point now suddenly dealing with the reality of being married and having kids, and people respond to it in different ways. But I like the way he approached it. I thought was very true to him, while being funnier than some of the stuff where it felt like he was trying to recreate his past. I thought so.
The dad jokes were my favorite part. Like him just like as a family man who's kind of what was the joke about when his daughter only has one line in a play and he has to still go see the whole play anyway, and it's like, well, I'm on the other side of that as the daughter. And then but she like forgets the line anyway, so it's like, why am I even here? That was really nice. I thought it was funny.
Yeah, it's sweet. It's really it's great. It's nice to see him do a special, which I don't think he's done in maybe his whole career. Has he ever done really a stand-up special?
I feel like maybe early on he must have, but yeah, I can't remember. I can't remember specifically.
And I like the way that it's broken up as well.
Yeah. It's also good to see him singing again and like doing that whole bit. I think he's
Even though the bit with each song is the same joke in the sense that it's like the song is about this, and then there's one line at the end of the song that is contradictory to the entire song before that. That's
entirely,
for
but
every song.
it's endearing.
Right.
You know, I like to see
It is endearing. I agree. And apparently PTA shot, Paul Thomas Anderson shot a bunch of the footage as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I'm not sure what or where, but
It was
apparently
the LA stuff.
Oh, really?
Yes, and it's like intercut throughout the whole movie. But yeah.
And it's worth noting at the end, in terms of the songs are mostly the same. At the end, though, he does get sort of earnest because there's the last two songs. The first one is a tribute to Chris Farley, and it's sort of a serial comic song about Chris Farley and his death. And then the second one is a song for his wife and family. And so again, it's sort of making jokes within those songs, but treating them much more straightforwardly than you expect Sandler to. So the Chris Farley one especially was interesting, mainly because I just think now, I look back on those movies now and I feel sort of complicated relationships with some of those 90s comedies because they're so aggressively frat boyish and I don't know how well they age anymore. So hearing him sort of pay tribute to another comedian who typified those movies, it just made me wonder, like, how do I feel about Chris Farley and Adam Sandler today?
Billy Madison and Happy Gilmore have not aged well. They have not aged well. I've stumbled across them on TV or put them on as like a sort of nostalgia filling, and like within 15 minutes, I'm like, I can't do this. This doesn't fill any good spots for me. I feel bad. All right, sticking with Netflix, just months after the release and cancellation of The Break with Michelle Wolf, we have Hasan Minhaj entering the talk show business. In Patriot Act, Minhaj will be dissecting the news and politics, and I don't know, maybe this politically centered talk show will be the one that brings down the administration. Probably not, though. What are your thoughts, guys?
I am very excited for this.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I think, first of all, Hasan Minhaj is so hot. But, you know, I think he has something new to offer. It seems, I read the New York Times interview with him, it seems like he's putting together something that is not just like a white man behind a desk. And I think that's kind of what we need.
I'm mainly curious to see how Netflix, because a lot of people have taken a run at this on Netflix now. We had Michelle Wolf try, and they got canceled unceremoniously. Chelsea Handler tried. So I'm curious to see, I don't know what Netflix is looking for yet from their political shows. It feels like they're
just looking for something to take off.
Yeah,
right?
That could be,
right.
Yeah. But they know that people aren't coming to Netflix the people go there to binge. They're not necessarily coming there for the kind of up-to-the-minute appointment viewing that the sort of Daily Show and things like that, or Full Frontal demand. So I'll be curious to see how Hasan Minhaj sort of maneuvers within that and finds a way to make this show not have to be appointment viewing.
It's why almost like a comedy documentary show would work much, but not in the sense that, not like American Vandal or something,
right.
But a kind of Michael Moore-ish take on the news where each episode is going after one subject and it's sort of a documentary of some kind, and that within itself is really funny. I don't ever really go to Netflix to get any kind of like topical humor. I also don't watch any political comedy shows anymore. I just do not need anybody else to recontextualize the news for me. Like, I understand it. It's in my face all day. What do I need a comedian to be like, hey, this happened? Like, I know it did. Twitter told me. The alert on my phone told me. And I find rarely any of the jokes to be cathartic in any way anymore.
I think what he's doing here, though, is kind of recontextualizing a story that we might have missed or something like that. It feels more curated in a way.
Like Last Week Tonight.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I'm seeing. But with like better clothes, better like nicer, all of these
better
things.
haircut, right?
Yeah, with like with the Netflix budget, you know.
Did you see the clip with him and Tan from Queer Eye?
Did I see it? How many times did I watch it? Like
that clip annoyed me because there was a moment in that clip where he was like, "I'm not sitting behind a desk in this," and Tan was like, "Oh my God, you're not sitting behind a desk," and I was like, "You guys, I can hear the press release like behind you. Like, I know you both work for Netflix and you're reading the press release, but this is so obvious, and also." Nobody cares if your host sits behind a desk or doesn't. That is solely for the producers working on it to talk about. Literally not one viewer is like, oh my God, guys.
There's a desk on stage.
He's not behind a desk. This show is different. This show's amazing. This is so different, you know. So
I don't think the desk matters. I think you're right. But I think that he is offering something that maybe feels different. That he is speaking not about the news every day, but just about something that he can speak to personally. I think that's interesting.
Yeah.
There's a new perspective as well. I would agree with that.
The one show I would love to see it sort of be like, because the one show I think that's been one of the more successful is Wyatt Snack's show on HBO. Like, I think he does sort of hybrid of news but also documentary that makes that show feel, you don't have to watch it right away, but you can watch it a few months later, but yet it still feels relevant. So
Right, not essential, but like a treat, something that I look forward to.
Mm-hmm.
I like something like Inside Amy Schumer, right, which wasn't a talk show, it was a sketch show, but it had a kind of hybrid talk show in there as well, where there was always a sit-down interview with someone for about 3 or 4 minutes in the middle of the show. But all of the sketches were kind of topical, but at the same time broad enough so that I could go back and watch them and not feel like I was really far ahead of it. I look at something like that, and that is what I would watch right now. I don't feel like we really have anything like that, because everybody wants to be up to the moment, hitting the news. They want to be Twitter the show, it seems like, and you can't be it.
Yeah, thank God for that too.
Seriously,
nobody needs any more of that. Trump is Twitter the show. Anyway, this Sunday, Ray Donovan is back. I don't need to summarize it. Here's a quick look.
I need you to fix this.
Ray, what are you gonna do? I'm gonna take care of it.
You know, I like to be able to tell people what to watch. I like to be able to recommend things, tell you that I know about things. I don't know fuck all about Ray Donovan. I've never watched the show. I don't want to lie to you. I want to be honest. So I don't have a good opinion about it. I don't have a bad opinion about it. Do you watch Ray Donovan?
No.
There we go. Ethan, do you watch Ray Donovan?
I watched the first few episodes way when it first premiered because I'm a Liev Schreiber fan. I ride for Liev Schreiber. But it falls in that category of Showtime drama where I watch 5 episodes and say, no, I don't think so. But I did go back and watch this just because I knew there was a new setting. He moves to New York this season as opposed to being in LA. So I watched the first episode and it was fine. I don't think you need to know too much about what came before. I haven't watched it in years, but I was still able to follow what was happening in this episode. And again, if you like Liev Schreiber, it's great to see him get this kind of showcase.
Love Liev Schreiber.
Yeah, no, exactly.
And Susan Sarandon too. Susan Sarandon is in this.
Sarandon's in it?
Yeah.
Do we like Suzanne Sarandon?
We love Susan Sarandon, of course.
I agree.
But there's a piece in The Ringer, I want to say maybe 2 years ago, about how dads love Ray Donovan.
Oh, my dad loves Ray Donovan.
Everyone's dad
He
loves
brings
Ray
it up
Donovan.
all the time. You watch that show, Ray Donovan? That show's good.
Aunts also love Ray Donovan. I have several aunts who watch Ray Donovan, so it's both a dad and an aunt show.
All right, let's move on. Last night, Heathers premiered on the new Paramount Network. It's a limited series based on the cult classic film. It was actually scheduled to be released in February, but was held up because in America, the only thing that changes after acts of mass slaughter are TV shows. Not laws, TV shows. Cue the trailer.
Suicide, murder, assault.
This is an epidemic.
We have to do something. Maybe a bake sale.
Teens like muffins.
Yeah.
The great minds that run Westerberg have finally solved the problem of the violent American teenager. Perhaps tomorrow they'll tackle global warming over lunch.
Why are you always pulling my dick?
Let's pour some gasoline on this dumpster fire.
You know, to be honest, I thought this was a terrible idea, but I'm actually having a really great time.
I think this looks great.
The first part of that quote is accurate, but it's a terrible idea part.
Have you seen it?
Yeah, I watched the premiere last night.
It's not great?
I didn't care for it, but what did you think first, if you saw it?
I saw the version before when it was like supposed to air originally, so I'm sure they might have changed a few things. But you know, there's a lot of competition for teen dramas right now and teen dramatic comedies. But you know, everything's gonna be rebooted anyway. So
does it feel like they're just trying to do Riverdale?
Not so much. It felt to me like they were trying to do a combination of Clueless and the original Heathers, obviously, and Jawbreaker. Like they want to be dark. They really want to be dark and edgy. And for me, it was so it was just too forced. Like I felt like no one really. It felt like they were all playing at being edgy rather than actually. Like to me, what you need to know is that Selma Blair has a small walk-on role in the premiere, and in her 5 minutes of screen time, she gets at the tone that this show wants in a way that none of the actors really do. She nails her scene, and that's the kind of tone that they need and the kind of actor they need. I feel everyone else is not quite on that level.
So give Selma Blair her own show, it sounds like.
Right.
I would watch.
Exactly.
Watch a Selma Blair show. So you're saying that because it's a limited series, though, like it's probably not going to find its rhythm, and there's no reason to stick with it.
I mean, if as sort of like a case study in how to adapt something, it might be interesting. Like because as you said, everything's getting rebooted now. So and as TV shows especially. So what does Heathers look like as a TV show? Here's one version of it. If you want to sort of follow that through to its conclusion, sure. I couldn't stick with it. I just found it really irritating instead of actually funny or again like revealing of anything.
So after everything we've covered, you guys, what's everyone's top 2 picks of the week?
I'm gonna say Suspiria because I love blood, and Bodyguard, the new Netflix show that's coming over from Europe.
Tell us about it.
That started on Wednesday, and it's like Richard Madden from Game of Thrones is playing a kind of secretive, mysterious bodyguard for a very conservative, like right-wing politician, and it seems, I like it.
I'm going to say Suspiria as well. It's a great fucking time at the movies. That's all you need to know. It's so much fun. And then after you see that, come back and binge on another Dario Argento bastardization, Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, which debuts on Netflix as well. And that has that adopts the Sabrina comics from the Riverdale universe, but it makes it more of a Italian giallo movie. It really there's a lot of elements of Argento at play in it. Also Polanski, also 70s occult British movies. It's kind of fun to watch.
Good?
I would not say it's good necessarily all the time, but it is interesting. It is fun to watch them sort of make a YA version of a giallo movie episode. It has the Netflix bloat problem of not telling, like, it tells one story over 10 episodes, and there's just times of just dead air in it. But I really like Kiernan Shipka in it. I really like Michelle Gomez. I love the style that they're going for. And if you're watching Riverdale this season, you can already see that there's a sort of a move to the occult on that show. So I think they are sort of preparing the groundwork for a potential crossover at some point. So.
I'm going to go Suspiria, and I'm going to say Adam Sandler's 100% Fresh, just because if PTA works on something, I recommend it. That's just how it works in my brain. There's a few other movies coming out this week, though, that we failed to mention. We should briefly talk about them. They are Burning with Steven Yeun, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They are Border, this Norwegian movie about trolls.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a documentary, but it's by the writer of Let the Right One In, the original, right? And then Monrovia, Indiana as well. All three of these movies, I haven't seen them, but they are supposed to be great. I'd imagine if I had seen them, they would probably be on my list for things that you should see this week. Have either of you seen any of these movies?
No, but I'm seeing Burning tonight, and I am so excited.
I'm eager to see Burning. I really love Frederick Wiseman, who made Monrovia, Indiana. I haven't had a chance to watch it yet, but I find his documentaries always so wonderful to disappear into. They're always expansive. They're always these really rich portraits of institutions and communities.
You have to see those in the theater, too.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
You ever tried to watch a Frederick Wiseman documentary at home?
Yeah.
It's impossible.
It really
is. It's literally impossible. It's because it's 3 hours of watching how an institution works without any drama.
Right,
You're like,
exactly.
Great, the librarian got the library card for the person who wanted a book. Okay.
I understand in this one there's a whole argument about fire hydrants. That sounds amazing if you were to see it on an IMAX screen, but maybe at home you'd be like, oh, they're still talking about fire hydrants. I'll go get a drink and then come back later. So, yeah. Burning, Monrovia, Indiana, and Border. That's all the time that we have for us here. Thank you, Hunter. Thank you, Chris. Thanks for being here, you guys. Thanks so much. We'll see you next week when we'll do this all over again if we're all still alive. I mean, who knows at this point. Bye, guys.